Why did you choose this life?
What life?
To be a great warrior.
I chose nothing. I was born, and this is what I am.
Achilles, the greatest warrior of the Trojan War, a hero torn between glory and doom, and one of the most complex characters in all of Greek mythology. But what happens when Hollywood takes on Homer? Today we're diving into Troy, the 2004 epic that dared to reimagine the Iliad. Does it capture the rage, the heartbreak, and the humanity of Achilles? Or does it miss the mark entirely? Let's break it down how Troy stacks up against one of the greatest stories ever told. The Iliad is an epic forged in anger, a relentless chain of fury that claims the lives of countless men and women. It delves into the origins of this rage and what it takes to finally extinguish it. But Troy, a film that often wanders far from its extraordinary source material, raises a different question. What is it even about? I still recall how profoundly moved I was at the end of the Iliad when Achilles wept with Priam in an unexpected amount of shared grief. That moment in Troy, however, left me puzzled. Why did it lack the same renaissance? In this video, we will explore how Troy strips the Iliad of its deeper meaning, unraveling the profound thread that made Homer's epic endure for millennia. The Iliad begins with a moment of rupture, Achilles' bitter fallout with Agamemnon, and it ends with Hector's burial. These events define the narrative arc and will serve as the boundaries for my analysis. Achilles is a character of contradictions, a proud little kid, yet the most fearsome warrior of the Trojan War. With a temper unmatched by anyone, his clash with King Agamemnon takes place in the midst of a divine plague. Apollo, angered by the Greeks' refusal to accept a ransom for a captive girl, unleashes sickness upon their army. In Troy, however, the gods are absent as an active force.
Agamemnon is no match for the gods.
And how many battalions does the sun god command?
Do not mock the gods.
There's no plague, and while the film retains the tension between Achilles and Agamemnon, it anchors their quarrel in the theft of Briseis alone, while removing the divine context and the cultural weight of ransom in Homer's world. The film loses a layer of complexity that is central to the Iliad story. Without the plague, however, the concept of ransom, a cornerstone of Homer's world, is never properly established. In the Iliad, ransom serves as both a narrative and moral framework. The poem begins with a ransom denied and concludes with a ransom accepted. After Agamemnon seizes Briseis, Troy skips a pivotal moment.
No argument with you, brothers, but if you don't release her, you'll never see home again. Decide. Gods!
Achilles' prayer to Zeus. In this prayer, Achilles begs Zeus to turn the tide of war in favor of the Trojans, hoping that the Greek deaths will force Agamemnon to regret his insult. This omission is baffling even without the gods as active participants, because it showcases that Achilles' power isn't limited to his skill in battle. He controls the war through his absence, using words, and will bend to events to his favor, almost like a sorcerer manipulating fate from the sidelines.
You know what's there? Waiting. Beyond that beach. Immortality! Take it! It's yours!
But leaving out this prayer, Troy reduces Achilles to a simpler, less compelling figure, stripping him of the depth that makes him so fascinating in Homer's text. That makes Achilles so powerful. One could argue that it's Achilles, not the Trojans, who's truly attacking the Greeks.
You speak of war as if it's a game.
Using his words, his will, and his calculated absence to devastating effect. Hector, in this light, becomes little more than Zeus' instrument, executing the divine will that ultimately serves Achilles' desires. But Troy fails to establish this dynamic, leaving its Achilles a flatter, less compelling character instead of a figure willing to see his allies die to prove a point. Troy's Achilles is preoccupied with their safety, diluting the ruthlessness that defines him in Homer's epic. By softening his edge, the film trades complexity and loses much of what makes Achilles so fascinating in the process.
Get him in line! Get them in! Back into line!
Achilles, even being near the battlefield, contradicts everything he said before.
But the men are ready.
We stay till Agamemnon groans to have Achilles back.
As you wish.
But the men are prepared. They wait until Agamemnon grovels, desperate for Achilles to return. This is what Achilles should be reduced to, remaining in his tent, withholding his power and forcing Agamemnon to beg for his return. That's how he regains the honor stripped from him. Where Briseis was taken, Agamemnon can have her back, but honor, not Briseis, is the real prize here.
Sack of wine! Before my time is done, I will look down on your corpse and smile.
And that brings us to something much larger. What's often called the choice of Achilles. Troy chooses to establish Achilles' fateful decision with a single moment.
Stay in Larissa. You will find peace. You will find a wonderful woman.
If you stay in Larissa, in Homer's Iliad, Achilles' ability to choose between two fates, long life or eternal glory, stems from his dual heritage. His mother as a goddess granting him insight to his destiny, while his mortal father ties him to be a fleeting joys of life. But Troy robs him of this tension. With his father already dead in film, Achilles lacks compelling reason to long for home, which undermines the emotional weight of his choice. The movie refrains the decision entirely, making it about whether to join the war in the first place. This shift makes Achilles' internal conflict feel less relevant to the story's central tension, and worse, it feels although he has already made his choice from the start. In 1,000 years, the dust from our bones will be gone. In Homer, the beauty of Achilles' dilemma lies in his reluctance to decide. Troy misses this, stripping the moment and its ambitious power. This reframing makes Achilles' choice less compelling in Troy. It becomes a decision about going to war rather than leave it, which makes it feel disconnected from the film's central conflict. Worse, it seems like Achilles already made up his mind, embracing the short, glorious life of a warrior. Much of the tension comes from Achilles' hesitation. He doesn't rush towards his fate, but fights it. Torn between two worlds, the internal conflict deepens after the Greeks are driven back, prompting Agamemnon to send 3 emissaries. Odysseus, Ajax, and Phoenix plead for Achilles' return to battle. Their desperate attempts emphasize the weight of Achilles' absence, reinforcing the stakes of his ultimate decision. This pivotal moment highlights what Troy misses. Achilles' choice isn't about whether to fight. It's about whether to rejoin a war that has already betrayed him. On behalf of Agamemnon, a clear sign that Achilles' prayer to Zeus is working. Odysseus offers Achilles bribes that go far beyond the return of Briseis. The Greeks seem willing to do anything to soothe Achilles' wrath, almost as they were worshipping, offering gifts.
Greece needs you. Greece got along fine before I was born.
This moment underscores the depth of Achilles' anger and the length to which the Greeks will go to bring him back. In Troy, however, the bribe is reduced to almost nothing. Briseis has already been returned to Achilles, something he never does in the Iliad. This change from the source material drains the moment of his tension and significance. It strips away the ritualistic desperations of Agamemnon's offer and models the real issue. Briseis is not the point. Achilles' anger is about honor, not love or possession, and Troy's fails to reflect his essential truth, because Briseis is not the real issue here. Even Troy itself hints at this. When Achilles is told he's not important as a warrior, someone destined to be forgotten, this highlights the true source of his rage.
Can I have the beach? I didn't come here for sand.
No. You came here because you want your name to last through the ages.
The fear of his name being lost to the history. My name will last through the ages. Your name is written in sand, for the waves to wash away. Achilles' rejection of Agamemnon's offers sets off a chain of events, allowing Hector to wreak havoc and set several Greek ships on fire. But this isn't just about battle, it's about a deeper conflict, one about Achilles' very place in history. Hector's actions are a direct attack on Achilles' choice to leave the war.
The Myrmidons didn't fight yesterday. There must be dissension among the Greeks, but if we attack their ships, we will unify them,
forcing him to make a decision. However, Troy misses a key element of the Iliad, Achilles' second prayer to Zeus, which takes place when Patroclus steps into his armor. In Homer's version, Achilles prays to Zeus to allow Patroclus to push back the Trojans and return unharmed, a request that mirrors Achilles' own desire for glory, but with the hope for a safe return. This is significant because it represents the central dilemma of Achilles, the tension between achieving glory and the impossibility of escaping death. As Achilles' mother reveals in Greek mythology, glory and doom are two sides of the same coin. In Troy, however, Patroclus is portrayed as an inexperienced, naive, a far cry from the more equal and trusted companion depicted in Homer. In the Iliad, Patroclus is Achilles' second, a ritual substitute and the most trusted warrior who can lead the Myrmidons when Achilles refuses. Patroclus' death isn't just a casualty, it's a sign that Achilles' fate is sealed and its very identity is being taken away from him. The betrayal of Patroclus diminishes the weight of his sacrifice, and with it, the weight of Achilles' own inevitable downfall. The difference in how Troy portrays Patroclus' role compared to the Iliad's is profound, especially when it comes to the symbolic importance of his death. In the epic, Patroclus is more than just a cousin or a simple warrior. The bond between them is so strong that Patroclus dons Achilles' armor. He becomes not just a substitute in battle, but the embodiment of Achilles himself. His death in this armor is not mere the death of a beloved friend, it is a symbolic death of Achilles' own fate. In Troy, however, this ritual substitution is lost. Patroclus, when he leads the Myrmidons and fights in Achilles' armor, does not carry the same weight of symbolism. The armor is stolen, not given. Additionally, the absence of the gods in Troy takes away the opportunity for Achilles' divine rebirth. In the Iliad, after Patroclus' death, Achilles receives new armor from the gods, a symbol of his rebirth into the battle. The armor is golden and divine, and when he appears on the battlefield, it strikes terror into the Trojans. Many fall on their own spears merely at the sight of him, making Achilles' return less mythic and more like an ordinary warrior. The lack of this rebirth diminishes the gravity of his return and ultimately the depth of his character's journey. The connection between Peleus and Priam in the film miss out on a key element that makes Iliad so powerful.
How many cousins have you killed? How many sons and fathers and brothers and husbands? How many, brave Achilles?
The point of Priam's meeting with Achilles is not just about acknowledging their differences, but about recognizing the common humanity they share.
There are no pacts between lions and men.
The lions and men analogy in the Iliad is significant precisely because it reflects Achilles' inability to see himself in Hector at that moment.
He killed my cousin.
He thought it was you.
He still views Hector as the enemy, a force to be reckoned with. The idea of lions and men, which speaks to more primal nature-bound worldview. In Homer's version, it's not about Hector, it's about Achilles, facing the mirror of his own fate, realizing the inevitability of his death and his place into the world.
Now you know who you're fighting.
The filmmaker's choice to focus on the helmet removal instead of the more profound symbolic action that happens in the Iliad. Achilles, recognizing Hector as a reflection of his own fate, strips away the sense of irony and the complexity of Achilles. In the epic, Achilles has to confront his role in the war and eventually of his own death, removing the element in the film. The tears Achilles shed in this moment, they are critical to his transformation. He realized that his quest for glory had made him a part of the very cycle of loss and suffering that he has been too focused on avenging. By empathizing with Priam's grief, he breaks the chain of vengeance leading to the return of Hector's body. It's a moment of change for Achilles, but also for the audience, as we see the ultimate warrior understand the consequences of his rage.
I knew your father. He died before his time, but he was lucky not to live long enough to see his son fall.
The fact that Achilles' father Peleus is already dead in the film further diminishes the potential for that moment of realization. Without the connection between father and son, there is less emotional weight to Achilles' actions. Priam's grief is also largely sidelined, and the audience doesn't get the depth of his loss, which is essential in helping Achilles break free from his vengeful mindset. Patroclus' death especially serves as the emotional trigger for Achilles. After Patroclus is killed by Hector, his anger shifts from the loss of honor to realization that he too will soon fall, either on the battlefield or at the hands of fate.